going to call to order this meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees for Tuesday, July 22nd. If everybody will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before us, we have the meeting agenda as presented. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections by fellow board members or department heads at this time? The agenda will stand as presented, and please let there be note, 6:15, we will immediately adjourn over to public hearing. That being said, the sheriff's report, I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1, I just wanted to update the board on the issue with Firestone speeding. We had the speed trailer out there one week in one direction, the other week in the other direction, and we have had lots of different deputies out at various times, weekend including those times, and have made many stops, given many tickets, and this activity will continue, which is making a significant difference in that area. I think what we'll do too is when school starts, because I know that's a big issue, kind of run through this process again. I did receive a nice thank you. Actually, Mr. Lino received a nice thank you from the gentleman that he's been working with on behalf of himself, myself, the board, for taking this so seriously. So it's worked out very well. And that's the end of the sheriff's report on my behalf.
Nice job. Even though we don't have a sheriff's office representative here, because Detective Koenig is on vacation, our other folks are on patrol, is there anybody that needs to state anything on the record that's in the crowd before the sheriff's office? Okay, that'll close out the sheriff's report. Our detective's report, there's nothing. It's going to take us to unfinished business, and I'm going to turn that right back over to Mrs. Campbell for the road levy.
Thank you. We did receive the certification from the Stark County Auditor, which was the first step in looking, well, the second step at looking at the road levy. The first was Mr. Iacino presenting at the work session the needs, the desires of the road department, then requesting the certification from the auditor. What I have before the board now is a resolution for the ballot language that has to be presented to by the fiscal office to the Stark County Board of Elections by August 4th. So you have the ballot language resolution in front of you for the 1.5 mil levy for 5 years for the purpose of providing general construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and repair of streets, roads, and bridges in the Plain Township Road District, Plain Township, Stark County, Ohio. And whereas on July 8, 2014, the board adopted a resolution declaring it necessary to submit to the electors of the district the question of the additional tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation as described below, a copy of which resolution was certified to the auditor of the County of Stark, and whereas the auditor of the County of Stark has certified to this board that the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated by the rate of 1.5 mils for each on-dollar tax valuation is $996,732.
Also move.
Second, discussion.
Included in this is the actual ballot language. And it, of course, as you know, majority affirmative vote is necessary for passage. I did speak with the Board of Elections about the ballot language. It was reviewed by our law director, and the ballot language is in front of you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes.
And Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And that ends unfinished business.
Ms. Campbell, we'll just stay right with you for new business.
Yes. Item number 1 under new business is a resolution to adopt the solid waste management plan. We do this every so often that the district policy committee of solid waste has to prepare and adopt a final draft of the solid waste management plan, and that's in accordance to the Ohio Revised Code. It has to be approved within 90 days of receipt, so we have until September 13, 2014 to approve the final draft plan, and 60% of the local jurisdiction needs to approve it. Myself, Joe Icino, and Sean Moriarty have reviewed, but then we took it a step further because we did receive it on a disc, and it was probably over 500 pages, and we spoke to Julie Burberry and had her review with us, talk to us, and she did say that it's a good plan. Furthermore, if this resolution does not pass, the EPA steps in and gives the solid waste management a plan, which is what we don't want to happen. So before you, you have a resolution to adopt the solid waste management plan for the Stark management, for the Stark Tuscarawas Wayne Solid Waste Management District.
Also moved.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And that ends new business.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell. It's going to take us to the fiscal officer's report. Mr. Flash?
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 1 on the fiscal officers for tonight is a request for a resolution by the Board of Trustees to authorize the payment of the pending warrants in the amount of $233,502.75.
Also moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Number 2 on the fiscal officer tonight is for a request for a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the payment of the regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $220,000.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis? Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 3 is a request for a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the payment for the following medical claims as provided by Allcare.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
So fiscal officer number 4 is the investment report.
Still earning dynamite rates, I see.
Rates are not going up. Fiscal officer number 5 is a request for a resolution by the board to authorize the refund as follows for overpayments as provided by Emergency Medical Services and Ohio Billing.
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
Is that Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 6 is a request by the board for a resolution authorizing the following transfers.
Also move for you to pay.
Second. Discussion?
I do want to say in the budget next year, my 2 transfers, I've adjusted for those. One of those you'll see is salaries. I did think that our seasonal part-time employees should be in safety uniforms since they are working next to the road, streets. God forbid, they're in jeans and a shirt and unrecognizable. And when you're working next to the road, after speaking with Mr. Icino, we thought safety first. So that's where that $1,000 increase is from. So you'll see that the budget has been adjusted for those items.
It's good for uniformity and consistency anyways across the board.
Yes.
So,
And you want your residents to know who's working for you.
Yes.
that was it. Roll call?
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
That'll conclude the fiscal officer's portion for tonight.
It's going to take us to the fire department. I'm going to turn that over to Chief Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1 is a resolution to authorize the purchase of payment to Russo Concrete for tear out and replacement of concrete front and back pads, station number 2, and also sidewalks.
So move on fire number 1.
Second.
Discussion. Chief, is this just a concrete's broken up, no longer holding?
It's 40 years, pushing 40 years on those pads, and some settlement with sidewalks. There's some pictures there at the end. Joe went out with me, we looked at it. There's some other work that he's going to help me do as far as the road, putting in a catch basin in the backside there for the asphalt and the concrete meet. And there's also some work inside that needs to be done.
Just for the record, to reflect for the public, so multiple quotes were obtained for the work. Any further?
20 years, it's life.
Roll call.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
And Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is to authorize the purchase and payment of gasoline and diesel fuel.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Road is silent tonight?
Wow. Were enough at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, we've got zoning nuisance.
Gentlemen, zoning number 1, we have nuisance abatement at 3634 Mount Pleasant Street.
Also move.
I'll second it.
Discussion, Denny, is this a prior property or is this something?
No, that's a new one, it's the first time this year, it's property for sale out on Mount Pleasant, closing in on Pittsburgh.
Okay.
It's not quite 2 acres.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. And then zoning number 2, we have a resolution for the purchase of postage for the zoning department not to exceed the amount of $4,050.
Also move.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Cole. It's going to take us to the Parks Department.
Gentlemen, just a couple of updates for you this evening. Our Barkapalooza event for the dog park was postponed Saturday due to the inclement weather. We are working on a rain date, and I'm hoping to have that by tomorrow and published by tomorrow. We have the yard sale coming up on August 16th, and are working on the e-waste for middle to end of September. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. That's going to take us to communications. I'm going to turn that over to Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a communications from the Stark County Board of Elections to let anyone who's interested in being a poll worker know that Stark County is hiring an additional 200 workers for the upcoming election by September 30th. But they will take names through the end of October. Positions are given on a first come first served basis, and priority will be given to veteran poll workers first. They can't guarantee certain locations, but they will accommodate any request. The election is November 4th, 2014, and workers start at 5:30 a.m. and work until 8:30 p.m. There is several paid training classes available 2 to 3 weeks before the election. And if you're interested, to call 330-451-7010. And I will put this on our website. And then item number 2 is a letter or an email that was sent to Joe Iacino. And it is a thank you. It says, "Gentlemen, I want to express my appreciation for you spending time looking at the drainage issue behind my house yesterday." And this was to Joe and Al Lino. It is so nice to have responsive and active township officials like the two of you. I truly enjoy living in Plain and believe it is a much more enjoyable place to live due to your efforts. Again, thank you. Respectfully, Derek C. McLowry. And again, that was to Mr. Lino and Mr. Iacino.
Nice work, guys.
And that's the, yeah.
So that closes out communications. We are at exactly 6:15 PM, so we're going to adjourn from this regular meeting to go to our 6:15 public hearing for the Willowbrook Heights Lighting District and the 2015 alternative tax budget. The first item for the public hearing, the Willowbrook Heights Lighting District. Do we have anybody here that's in the crowd that wishes to address the board in support of this measure, or do we have anybody that wishes to speak against?
What's happening with the lighting? I live right on the corner of Middle Branch and 48th Street. I pay for one light. There's another one right on the corner. It seems like it's lit up pretty good. What are they going after here?
Can I just get your name and address?
Yeah, Timothy Nagel, 4773 Middle Branch Road. I've been paying for the second light for probably about 15 years now. It's like $8 or $11 a month. No big deal. So I don't know, what do they want to do? Light up the whole street all the way down, or?
This is a light that's currently there. I think it was one that just wasn't included in the district. So basically, all they're going to do is one resident who's receiving the bill and paying it, I think, or having neighbors pay for it. All they're going to do is switch it over into the lighting district. So they filed a petition, and that's what brought us here for the hearing. But it's not a new light or anything like that. It's just one that hasn't been included. Yeah.
$11 a month, huh?
So,
Okay.
Is there anybody else that wishes to speak specific to the Willowbrook Heights Lighting District outside of Mr. Nagel?
Are you for or against?
I'm paying for the second one. I'll pay for the first one if they're going to turn it out. It's no big deal.
Just want to get that on record. That's
Okay.
all. Make sure they're okay.
All right.
So that'll close
I guess if
out.
they're going to turn it off, call me. I'll put it on my bill.
it's not to turn a light off.
Okay.
It's going to stay on. All it's going to do is include it in the lighting district.
Don't say that too loud now, you get stuck with it.
Wow, $22 a month.
That'll close out the Willowbrook Heights Lighting District. I'm going to take it to our 2015
We need to
alternative.
do a resolution on that.
So we do-
Yeah,
Okay.
correct.
Second, discussion, roll call.
Mr. Haas,
Yes.
Mr. Lino,
Yes.
and Mr. Geovasis.
Yes.
Since I jumped the gun there, sorry about that.
I have to say, this was the most exciting lighting district hearing we've had.
I'm glad I showed up.
Yes, thank you.
Next item we have is the 2015 alternative tax budget. I believe, Mrs. Campbell? What?
I think maybe Mr. Flex, I just want to first go on record and say what a phenomenal job this year that the fiscal office has done with the budget. I sat down with Mr. Flex and also Mr. Russert and had several meetings with different department heads. Mr. Russert put together a very good spreadsheet, instructions this year that were very easy for everybody to use. So it's always good teamwork. I just think this year it was the easiest for everybody to do. And Mr. Flex made himself available to meet with anybody at any time, answer any questions. So much appreciated. So I think with the grasp that Mr. Flex has on the budget, I'll turn it over to the fiscal officer.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, Lisa put together a great spreadsheet, gave pretty good instructions for the department that's involved, so I think pretty easy. What you have before you is, like you've had every year prior, it's just a proposed alternative tax budget for 2015. Obviously, we passed a final budget at the end of the year. So, Luther's included a breakdown of estimated carryovers, because I know that's one of the questions that's usually asked each year. Your estimated carryover into next year would be 5.4 million. That would include all the funds.
5.4
Million.
Amongst all of the,
amongst all funds.
Correct.
we have,
That's strictly based on the estimates of what each department head feels that they may have remaining from the budget this year. It's always necessary to make bills for the first month or two next year.
when's final submission of this?
It'll have to be approved at the next meeting.
Okay.
I think the most difficult budget, and myself, Mr. Iacino, Mr. Russert, and Mr. Flex sat down for hours, was of course the road budget.
Well, just for the record, because of what was on the agenda earlier, I think the record is clear that the carryover in the road district fund is $59,653. And the road and bridge fund itself is $39,026. So we're roughly carrying over $90,000 out of what was your annual budget?
Around 2.7.
2.7.
So less than.
Doesn't leave a whole lot left to buy equipment or pave streets.
I hope I can carry that over.
Yeah, we actually had to,
Plan right now.
yeah, we actually had to cut this year's budget to not end up in the negative. And we have to pray for a Scott Hawes winter because we don't have the funds to purchase salt. So, it's known as a Scott Hawes winter.
We need a couple in a row.
Yeah. So, we actually did
Well,
cut.
whose winter was it last year?
That's a Luigi Nathan's winner. Yeah.
I'm taking blame on that.
No,
Tough one.
we did cut his current budget, because we can't go into the negative. So, it was the most difficult budget.
I do know, I got to see the tool that Luther put together with some of the plug-and-play, and it definitely looked a lot more intuitive instead of half
Made it a lot easier, yes.
The only thing that would make it even easier next year is if we actually had the department head plug the numbers in and send us spreadsheets back. Everybody sat and wrote those out, and then we had to re-add them. Other than that, it's just good issue.
Okay, is there anybody in the, anybody else that's got to speak to this? Do we need to pass?
Traditionally, what we've done is just basically held it over till next meeting. It gives you, well, actually, this time I did 3 weeks, I think, in between meetings. So, in case there's any questions or issues that come up in the meantime, then we can pass the final budget.
I'll make a motion.
It just has to go to the auditor by August 20.
I'll just make a motion to table it until next meeting, to give time for review,
Second.
discussion, roll call.
Do you need a motion for the table?
Okay. So that's going to close out the public hearing. We're going to return to our regular meeting at 6:23 p.m. Next up, let's see, communications, is the public speaks portion of the meeting where you wish to address the Board of Trustees, state your name and address for the record, and I do show the first person we have reserved is Mr. Davis, so just state your name and address for the record.
Jim Davis, 7709 Foxtrot Avenue Northwest, North Canton, Ohio. Twofold here today. I got 2 items on the agenda for you. First, I want to thank you guys for another successful spring event. We had probably close to 155 teams this year. So every year we seem to be increasing the number of teams than the previous years. Just to think that 6 years ago we all partnered together with 10 teams. So huge milestones as far as what we do together as far as getting this facility
using the facility and also, getting that type of sport into the community. So it basically equated about 3,900 student athletes between grades 3 through 8 coming here to the community park to play, which is a lot of kids. We've extended from 1 day to 4 days. So basically, first I wanted to thank you guys for everything that you guys do, with the facility and discussions and the year-long planning that we do for the event. So, the success of it makes people want to come back, and new people who hear it want to come and play in the event. So the second issue I wanted to talk about was the fall event that we've got coming up, which is the graveyard. And Mr. Steinberg and Ms. Campbell and I have met before about some issues, talking about that, some pre-planning for the event. And one of the things that came up was the field fees that I assume have come under resolution at the beginning of the year for the fields. One of the things I had to question was, for our particular event, we use a non-standard field size for 7-on-7. So instead of using a full-size soccer field, we use it width-wise. So it'd be from, like, in football relations, it'd be sideline to sideline. And then we play games that way. And just kind of wanted to openly discuss with you a little bit as far as the field fees. You guys have set at $45. If there's any type of negotiation with that as far as the type of event, the use of the fields, and that sort of thing. And how you guys kind of work this with either other sports or other program directors, that type of thing.
So I can speak to how we've assessed these fees across the board since they were passed on January 14th. I know Mr. Davis and I met on the 16th. We've met throughout, as he's mentioned. And the reason we went to the fee schedule that we had, as we came to the end of 2013 and beginning of 2014, we talked about the need to be consistent with the way we charged our clientele from top to bottom, inside and out, so it's a universal fee structure. Because I believe that the state auditor has required us to do so in not so many words, which is why we came up with the resident versus non-resident rates, which is how the contracts have been entered into to this point. And Mr. Davis is correct when he talks about using a third of the field space. And as we talked, and I think where we agreed to disagree is, it was my opinion that we use the entire facility anyway, because we can't hold other programming when we have a tournament there, because we utilize both parking lots. We use the extra space on the ball fields for parking. We use extra space for tents and teams and vendors, etc. We use the space for the fields as well. But we can't get anybody else at the indoor run the ball fields or onto another field to utilize for any other programming. So, as I said to Jim, just to give the whole perspective here, when we were talking in June, our costs don't change because we still can't hold other programming. We still have our costs with our employees on site for both concessions and parks, the cost of the sheriff or sheriffs, the cost of the porta-johns, the cost of the paint, the setup, the tear down, the gators, the golf carts, and et cetera, that we provide for the facility and then the tournament to be run. So to be perfectly upfront and direct about it, I'm the one who emailed Jim back on June 12th, which is the same day we met, after crunching the numbers and looking at what we did not make last fall, and in actuality what we lost last fall versus how the numbers shook out for the spring tournaments. My email to Jim was that I wanted to get the answer to him as expeditiously as possible, because he mentioned he may have to seek alternative arrangements. But the $45 per game just barely covers our costs and expenses in such to hold the tournament, and that the only revenue stream we have is the concessions portion. So that was the reasoning I gave, because essentially we can't bring anything else into the facility because our costs don't change, because the whole facility is being used, and because of the cost it takes for us to hold the tournament itself. That $45 per game is merely covering the cost, and then the only revenue piece we see is from the concession area. So just so you guys have the perspective as to what I answered and why I answered it. As we talk, it would be my recommendation that we didn't change them, because I think as we open this up and as we talk about it, it would concern me moving forward if we allowed one person to negotiate fees, that we would set a precedent for others to come in and negotiate fees, and that would more than likely put into jeopardy the integrity of the fee structure to begin with, and the usage fees in general. But I'm the one who responded, so I want to become very clear with that.
I'm going to have the record reflect it. I was definitely one that's requested uniform, consistent fee based upon the auditor's findings, because we can't be getting into, Eric gets one set of terms and conditions, I get another set of terms and conditions, you get another set of terms and conditions. So outside the consistency aspect, when we brought Rob in, he's been tasked with taking an operation and making it self-sufficient, because we don't have a parks levy. And the fact that there's going to be foregone opportunity because we can't schedule at that facility, but as well as the fact that our labor cost and our prep cost all hold sound, I'm not willing to budge off a number where I know that's barely covering our costs right now. The fact that we went through meetings with a number of different organizations, including the cost at the beginning of the year, after we introduced it, to come back mid-year and change that up, I'm going to tell you, my recommendation is still to hold true to what we've put in place, because I don't want to be dealing with the floodgates opening with every different organization, whether it's baseball, softball, soccer, rugby, or anybody. So I think the fact that there's still going to be wear and tear, even if it's not on the immediate playing field because of other tents or just crowd traffic on there. I literally think we've been a relatively good partner in helping provide some of the safety in the organization through the sheriff's additional port johns and stuff like that, to where when we take a look at our numbers, I'm going to support really the findings, and we have the data to back that Mr. Steinberg's presented. So do either two of you have anything?
No, I'm pretty much in the, first of all, thanks. We do appreciate the activity you bring down the park.
Yeah.
And I've been to those lacrosse, and it's very professionally done. You do an excellent job with that. I mean, it's very, very good. First class, along with our staff. But I spoke with him, and I think his numbers. He's pretty right on with it, and I'm pretty much in agreement. Just the fact that all that comes with it, that we have to do ourselves also, is just barely making it on it. So I would have a difficult time too if we had to start playing around. And I know as much as you'd like to see us do that, but then again, like Scott said, we've got all those other organizations that now they'll be coming up in front of us and make it a little different. Let me ask you too, Rob. This is, I know you've got a study throughout. Is this pretty comparable to what other entities would ask on something like this?
It's an apples and oranges comparison, because we offer, in my opinion, some of the best fields in Northeast Ohio. And while the rates for the fields may be similar, a little higher, a little less, our amenities are beyond comparison. So I think we offer more for what we charge.
Say that again?
It's a bit of an apples and oranges, because I think our fields are above and beyond what most other people have to utilize. And while the rates may be similar to other entities, some a little higher, some a little lower than us, they don't offer a lot of the amenities that we offer on site for the service part of the puzzle, along with the field rental.
And with our discussions, our partnerships throughout all these years, my viewpoint is I want the facility has to be self-sufficient, and I totally understand that. I just wanted to kind of discuss the change that we've had the past 4 years going forward, and then going this way forward, and moving forward, just to make sure that I'm prepared as far as like team fees and stuff like that for the event. I want to make sure things are covered. At the same time, though, some of the amenities, that we've partnered over 7 years now going, for the lacrosse events here, that, we've always talked, discussed ideas about things, getting to the point though of not getting charged for things and ideas that we brought forward that have worked, now all of a sudden I'm paying money for it, which increased fees. And that's what some of those things I don't want to try to do, is get it to a part where we're not very competitive in the tournament marketplace. So, but no, I just wanted to discuss that. And see if you
Any questions or comments?
No, Jim, I'm just looking at these figure sheets here. And we're talking specifically about the graveyard tournament, right?
This was the graveyard figures from 2013.
Okay.
That includes their 20% for the concession volunteers they provided, as well as the verbal agreement that was in place for that tournament that we honored.
So according to these numbers, it would actually cost us $1,000 more than we brought in.
Correct.
So what factors will this moment even has here? What's going to change from this year?
When you charge the per game fee, you're not charging per hour or per duration, you're charging per usage per game, and it allows us to keep our costs in line as we move forward. And I think the difference with what the per game fee would have been is, I think it would have been something like, we would have made $2,200.
Jim, do you have anything else for the board as far as questions or conversation?
No.
At this point, I would, for the record, encourage continued open dialogue. If there's other best practices we can evaluate, looking at moving forward, whether it's specific to your events or anything that we may be able to run across the board that could help potentially
Grow.
grow, but use as a best practice in other events that helps us either manage our costs.
Keep our costs in line, streamline the process.
We can take a look at the whole picture, then on any changes.
And we did a lot of that in the fall when I first started, is evaluate kind of what we were costing ourselves and tried to streamline some of that for the spring as well. So we're always learning.
And thanks a lot for all your guys' help this year. It's been a pleasure, so we'll continue on for next year. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in the crowd that wishes to address the Board of Trustees regarding any township-related matters? Okay, that's going to close the public speaks section of our meeting. It takes us to concerns of trustees. Do either of my peers have anything for the record? Concerns of the fiscal officer?
None.
Okay. It's going to take us to the approval of our minutes for July 8th, 2014, which I will so move.
I'll second it.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes. There is a need for executive session, so be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:37 p.m. from this regular meeting as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose and consideration of 3, a conference with the law director or other retained counsel concerning pending or imminent court action.
Second.
Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.